Welcome to the Writing in Your Jammies podcast. I'm your host, Jeannie Hall, and I'm pursuing my dream of writing in my jammies for a living. By discussing some of the spiritual teachings that have put me on the road to success, I hope to inspire you to feel better, live happier, and pursue your own dreams. Join me. Hi, and welcome to podcast 2 in the Writing in Your Jammies podcast. This one is entitled Losing Weight the Fun Way. I have been publishing lots of stuff on my social media about my weight loss journey, and I've had a few different people respond with, what's your secret? What are you doing? Currently, I've lost over 40 pounds, and I feel like I probably lost more. I will update you guys on that. I only go to the doctor every 3 months, so that's when I find out how much weight I've lost. I find it healthy and helpful to not jump on the scale every second of every day and obsess about it. So for me, it's just over time, and that helps me a lot. But the first thing I want to say about losing weight is you're going to be much more successful if you have fun while you do it. If you don't look at it as this horrible thing you have to do because your doctor's yelling at you, or because you hate the way you look, or you hate certain parts of your body jiggling when you shake or dance or move. If you're looking at it from a negative standpoint, you're setting yourself up for failure, basically. So make sure that before you ever even start the weight loss journey, that you're looking at it from a fun, energetic, enjoyable perspective, that this is going to be a great adventure for me, and at the end, I'm going to be more what I want for my body. It's all about perspective. So have fun and do what it is that you enjoy doing. So take time for the activities that you enjoy, whatever those activities are. Make sure, if you can, that more of those activities are physical in nature. Make sure you're moving your body. Even people who are, wheelchair bound, for example, or something like that, there's still activities you can do from a seated position. Or maybe you're not wheelchair bound, but maybe you're limited in some way where it's not safe for you to get up and walk around and run around and stuff like that. There are still activities you can do from the safety of your chair or in a laying position even. I love to stretch and do my yoga and stuff like that on my bed. So, don't let a limitation limit you. You can still move, you can still be active, you can still move certain parts of your body even if you can't move part of it. So just remember that. Don't limit yourself. Another example of trying to be more physically active is maybe the choices that you make on how you spend your time. So maybe you love to go out, but let's say instead of going to a movie theater every single time you go out, you go to a park, or you go outside and look around, or you go inside to something else like a museum or something where you're walking, moving, that kind of thing, so that it's not all this sedentary activity. Often accompanied by lots of food, so especially popcorn and candy and stuff like that. Anytime you can make a choice that gets you a little more physically active, even if it's as simple as standing and walking instead of sitting for a couple hours, that's great. Not to say you can't watch movies. I still watch movies and have popcorn. I still have candy even sometimes. But just make sure that you're making more of the choices more often than not to be active rather than inactive. I often joke too that another way to be active, especially if you're part of a couple, is make love, man. Have some nookies. It's great. It's great for your heart. It's great for your relationship. It's great in all good ways. So that's a great way to do it too. Just go ahead and have fun. Okay, another activity that you can do whatever activity you're doing, if you can, make sure they don't center around eating and food. I used to celebrate every single thing with desserts and sweets, and especially ice cream. Ice cream is my thing. I freaking love ice cream. It's just something I've always loved, and I used to have it all the time, as in almost daily. And I'm not talking small amounts, I'm talking large amounts. So, because of the sugar in particular involved in that particular food, and lots of other foods that are sugary or really, really high in carbohydrate, it's really important to, kind of limit that. If you're going to celebrate, kind of come up with some different ways that it doesn't always center around the food aspect of it. Not to say you can't have it. I still do. I still have ice cream. I still have different things, but I'm smarter about it. I have Carb Smart ice cream, for example, instead, which tastes awesome, by the way. Or, there's different ones. Read your labels, see what the lower carb counts are, and go that direction, and then just have a little bit less of it. Eat slow. Just all the stuff that, makes common sense. Pay attention as you eat it to how your body's reacting to it. If you're getting full, pay attention to that. Make sure you're actually focused on your body as you eat so that you know when you're full and you stop in time. I used to completely ignore my body and would be absolutely stuffed, and I would still have more. And that, it's no wonder I weighed 233 pounds at 5'7". It's no wonder, because I completely ignored what my body was trying to tell me. I would be almost sick and I would keep eating. So it was crazy. Another thing to keep an eye on is something I already mentioned, carbs. Your carbohydrate count is, especially if you're someone who is kind of fighting with diabetes, hypoglycemia, any of those kind of issues, that kind of stuff. That's something I learned from my dietitian. It's sugar, man. It's really dangerous sometimes. How many foods are including sugar that shouldn't even have sugar. Like, there's high fructose corn syrup in so many products nowadays, especially processed foods, that you wouldn't even think it's in there. You're like, but that's like that's like corn. Why does it have so much high fructose corn syrup added to it? It's crazy. There's a lot of products like that out there that have a lot of added stuff that is super bad for you and goes straight into fat and other harmful things. So just be aware, look at your labels, try and eat as fresh as you can, basically. When I was first diagnosed with diabetes last year, I was told that, at this point, I'm recording in July 2017, a year ago, in 2016, was when I got my diagnosis, and my regular doctor told me to eliminate all sweets. And I thought that meant I could never have carbs again, and I was so upset by that, just devastated. And that's really not quite correct. Not to say you can't have any sweets, and carbohydrates, especially healthy carbohydrates, are absolutely necessary to the functioning of your body. So definitely know that. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not a specialist. I don't have any certifications or anything like that. I'm just telling you what I personally experienced and what worked for me. If you're in my boat, I just tell you, it doesn't have to be the end of your life. I know I looked at it that way at first. I was super upset when I found out I had diabetes, because I thought that meant I could never have the foods I loved again. And it's just not true. Not at all. I'm having more fun now at 40 pounds lighter than I've had in over 20 years. I feel so much better. And I still have the foods I love. But I do watch some of those processed stuff because I notice that it makes me feel crappy. I just noticed, if I chow down on those Cheetos and have a huge bag and then another bag on top of that, I feel like crap, man. And I just started paying attention to that. I wasn't paying attention to that. I was just eating my way through all this garbage, basically, and not respecting what my body was trying to tell me. So if you listen, you'll realize it yourself. I respond really well personally to proteins and vegetables. Like this week I made this real simple, like no-bake cookie type thing with mostly peanut butter and oats and like some dark chocolate melted in there. I had a little honey in there. But it's like 13 carbs for a little cookie. And no, it's not super sweet, but it is sweet and it is chocolatey and it is peanut buttery. So if you like those kind of foods, and it's very clean, there's no super unhealthy stuff in it at all. There's no, weird processed chemicals in it. It's just those ingredients. So, if you're careful with your labels and you make some stuff up, and I like to keep mine in the fridge and then have some when I get hungry at work, it feels really good to my body to have that kind of food. So, try that out. See if it works for you. Some examples of carbs, if you don't already know: cereal, fruits, rice, pasta, breads, and pastry. I love all those foods a lot. And it's just important to have it in balance. So like one of my favorite foods, for example, is spaghetti. When I make my spaghetti, I just put a whole bunch of stuff in the sauce and keep the noodles to a minimum. I still have them, but I have lots of like mushrooms, onions, tomatoes, some, I usually have ground beef in mine, but however, if you're vegetarian or not or whatever, but, make it however you want. But if you really pump up your sauce or whatever, and then minimize the pasta part, then you still have your spaghetti and it's really good, and put whatever cheese you want on there or whatever. You don't have to give up your favorite foods. You just don't. Don't believe that. It's a myth, because I'm proof positive, at least as far as my body goes, and I'm sure I'm pretty typical of most overweight Americans in their 40s. So yeah, or wherever you're living, American or not. So to me, and this is another huge point, this was huge. Losing weight is not about dieting. It's about putting yourself and your needs first. And it's about loving yourself enough to do so. This is a huge lesson that I learned. I was not putting myself or my body first. One, I wasn't listening to my body at all. And another thing was I was just treating my body like it was just this thing that hung around me and supported my weight. And, it was there as I was doing whatever I was doing. But, your body is an essential part of who you are. And if you keep treating it like crap, it's going to quit working on you at some point. And when I talk about putting yourself first, I'm not talking about being selfish. A lot of us have been taught that if you put yourself first, then that's selfish. And, a lot of us are even taught to put ourselves last. There's different beliefs out there, whether it's a family or cultural or religious belief, put yourself last and that'll mean you're first or whatever. But what I found out for myself is that if I drain all my energy, then nothing is left to give. I can't give anymore if I'm completely drained. And I become grumpy and tired and exhausted and angry at the world. And that's because I pushed myself too hard and I drained myself. So make sure that you fill yourself up and you do what you enjoy and what you love, and you love yourself enough to do that. Fill yourself up with good feelings, whatever gives you healthy, good feelings. That's great. Just do that, okay? And this is basically, it's not just about losing weight. To succeed at anything, you need to love yourself enough to put yourself first in that. And once you're full and once you're filled up with good feelings and peace and all those good things, then you can give. And then it's so natural to give. You want to give at that point. Whereas if you're giving when you're empty or trying to give when you're empty, it doesn't work, or almost empty. It doesn't work because you don't have anything to give. And then you feel resentful and angry about things when you don't have to. Here's some examples of that. Maybe you're a parent and you feel exhausted and frankly grumpy a lot of the time anyway, probably because you're exhausted. So this is my, see if you can take like 15 minutes a day. It doesn't have to be, I need a month off, even if that's what you want. But let's say that's not realistic for you. Whatever's realistic for you, 15 minutes a day, have someone watch your kids so you can take a nap or a bubble bath or something. When they're napping, take some time for you, whether it's a nap or something else. Just focus on that. Just pay attention to how you're spending your time, and make sure at least part of that time every day is just for you so that you can fill up your own well. Okay, another thing is, if you don't make yourself a priority, then you're setting yourself up to fail. You're putting yourself in a position where you're not at your best. And to do anything, really, I think you need to try and be at your best to begin with. And resentment's going to pop up if you don't, especially if you haven't had any time for yourself in a long time. And, maybe you feel like you should feel guilty for wanting to take time for yourself. You shouldn't. Everybody has a right to take care of themselves. And if you don't take care of yourself first, then you can't take care of others. There's a reason why when you get on a plane and you have a child sitting next to you that's your child or someone that you're taking care of, that they tell you to put the oxygen mask, if there's an emergency, put the oxygen mask on yourself first and then put it on the person next to you. Because if you're out of oxygen and you're out of air and you're trying to save them, you're going to die, or you're going to be in a really bad position. So you have to take care of yourself first. That's just necessary. And don't feel guilty about it. There's nothing to feel guilty about, okay? And again, I know I already said this, listen to your body. I mean, I know maybe to you that sounds super weird, but just I'm not talking about hearing voices from your body. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about stop and pay attention to how your body feels. Be quiet, sit still, turn everything off, and think about the different parts of your body. Maybe your stomach's gurgling, maybe you're breathing hard, or maybe you're sweating or hot or cold or whatever. How does it feel? Maybe you feel sore or achy or hungry or too full. Just notice that and don't judge it. Whatever it is, it's fine. But just be aware of it. And the more you're aware and stop and make yourself aware throughout your day of how you're feeling and try and make yourself feel better whatever way you can, that is part of the road to success. It really is. Okay? I mean, think about the last time you ate a large meal and went to bed. Did you feel yucky? Did you feel really gross? Did you have heartburn? Any of those kind of things? Just kind of pay attention, and especially when you're eating. Pay attention to what you're eating and how you're eating it. And whatever it is, maybe it is Cheetos. Maybe you love Cheetos and you cannot give up Cheetos. Fine. Have a handful and then stop and see how you feel. Okay? Just don't overdo it. And again, that's really what was my key to success. Part of it was just learning to listen to myself and my body and pay attention when it was in distress. Don't ignore it. It's way easier to change your habits when you're actually making yourself conscious of what you're doing and how you're feeling in a moment-to-moment basis. You really can do that. And it's like anything else. You can learn it. And just pay attention. And it's not hard. Okay? All right, guys. I'm going to wrap up this particular podcast. I'm going to have some different show notes if you have questions and things like that. But basically, if it feels good, it can't hurt you. Okay? As long as it, not say it can't hurt you. There's some things that can't hurt you. But, if it legitimately feels good and it's not anything dangerous like drugs or jumping off a cliff or anything crazy like that. Just, make sure that you're paying attention to what feels good to you, what you enjoy, and you'll be in good shape, okay? And I thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a great day. I truly appreciate you taking time out of your day to listen to this podcast. You can learn more about the topics discussed on this show and any episode on my website, writinginyourjammies.com, and on my Amazon author page, keyword Jeannie Hall. Remember that you are worthy of all good things. You are pure love, light, and energy. Thanks again.